This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Well, good morning everybody and welcome to another safari here in Africa. It is a beautiful winter's morning. The sun is about to rise. Still a bit of coolness in the air, but hopefully it will be a busy one. Lots and lots of audio for lions all around us, so hopefully we'll be able to find them. My name is Tristan. On camera I've got David, and we are coming to you live from South Africa's Djuma Game Reserve. And so we're hoping that you will all try and engage with us this morning and give us lots and lots of questions and comments on hashtag SafariLive. That's the idea anyway. And so what we're going to try to do this morning on Walk is we're going to try and see if we can give James and Steve, who are on vehicles, a hand. Maybe we can try and find these lion tracks and see where they were. They made lots of noise last night, but some of it was coming from the north inside Buffelshoek, maybe even as far as Manyeleti. When it's a cold morning like it is now, or cold evening, you'll often find that that sound travels a lot further, and it can be a little bit trickier in terms of pinpointing exactly where the sound is coming from. So that will be the sort of focus for the start of our morning. We are going to have the most beautiful sunrise. There's a bit of cloud cover that we've got on our eastern side, so it's creating these little lines across the sky, and then you get this beautiful sort of red and blues that are coming out. It's absolutely stunning this morning, so it promises to be wonderful conditions for a walk. The only thing is there's a bit of a wind that's creeping up now. We're starting to get a little wind kind of coming up, and that's never ideal when you're on foot, so hopefully it just calms down a little bit and doesn't get too much bigger than what it is right now. But we're going to try and see if maybe, just maybe, these lions came down towards the dam. I know they were heard on the dam cam, but they weren't seen on the dam cam. And so I wonder if maybe they just skirted around the northern side. We know the Avoca boys often do this. They go towards Buffelshoek Dam and walk along the boundary. They might even have been at Tamboti Dam, which is straight north of the Gari Dam. And so they could have easily been calling from that side. So we'll probably head around that area. We'll also wait and see if anyone follows up on where Hosanna was, and see if he's there. If he's not there and the lions are not on our side, because I know James is going to be checking the boundaries, and so is Steve, then we might go and follow up on our trio of cats that we're seeing yesterday afternoon in the form of Tandi, Tlalamba and Hosanna. That will be the idea anyway. Sound good, David? David says it sounds good, so we've got David's seal of approval, which is a good thing. Now, I believe a lot of you are loving the fact that there is this beautiful painted sky. It is absolutely marvelous morning to be out, like I say, and with those little clouds that are streaked across the horizon, that reddish color that's coming through up against the blues and oranges is absolutely perfect way to start your morning. It's a beautiful sight to gaze upon for a start of the day. Right, while we decide what we're going to be doing exactly and just checking which way we're going to go, I'm going to consult with Herbie. Let's send you across to Steve, who's out and about and wants to say good morning.
Good morning everybody, how are we doing this morning? My name is Steve, I'm joined on camera by Fergus, and we can see something popping its head over in the horizon there. Let's just move into a little position. Can't help but stop for the beautiful sunrise and the African dawn. We have been out doing some drone testing if we could find any animals, but haven't found anything of interest. Lots of noises from the north, lots of lions up in the north it seems. I had some leopards shouting to our sort of southwest, so I'm going to be heading in that direction, see if we can find whatever it is that was calling. It seemed to sound like a female leopard calling, but now that the warmth of the sun is moving in, I'm sure we'll be able to lose a layer or two shortly, but this is always the coldest time of the morning, as the heat pushes down the cold air. Don't forget to send through your questions and comments, hashtag SafariLive, or chat to us on the YouTube stream. We'd love to know how you're doing this morning. Romit, most certainly the temperature has increased. I couldn't tell you by how many. I think it's 16 degrees Celsius, so that's what, 4 degrees more than it was the other day. 80 degrees Fahrenheit, no, 60. Oh, ground hornbills coming in from the right. They're going to cross the frame. Look at that, 2 days in a row. That is super awesome. That is super exciting. How would a flyby? They were just moving through the open area of quarantine. How marvelous was that? A beautiful flight pattern, the nice white tips of the wings. 2 days in a row. I am blessed. I'm super blessed. So Louise says it's going to get up to 33 degrees Celsius. So that's 66. That's about 90 degrees Fahrenheit, plus minus. It is quite warm for a winter's day, but no doubt these warm days are going to herald some very cold days. We always get that in late July. You get a few warm days which force you to pack away your winter clothes, and then out of nowhere, the cold spell hits once again. Well, we can sit and admire the beauty because when we're not moving, it is quite warm, but it is beautiful, the colors of the sky. And of course, he doesn't want to be the only, he wants to be a bird that photobombs as well, the lilac-breasted roller. Oh, look at that. I think you were talking to me there, Emma, just in case. Okay, well, we're going to be leaving the sunshine, heading across towards the sort of southwest. See if we can follow up on that sound, the call of a leopard calling in the southwest. As I said, we didn't spot anything on the drone this morning, but we can't check everywhere. And sometimes we find the leopards are completely invisible underneath the trees. Beautiful dawn. Yes, Spara, they were. The hornbills, once again. I saw them yesterday morning with some tracks. So that makes me very excited. But there were 3 yesterday, 2 adults and a sub-adult. And then now this morning I only saw the 2. So I'm going to guess it's the same. But it's always weird. I've always only seen hornbills in odd numbers, 3 or 5. Never seen 2. Or 4, always an odd number. It's because they're always adding 1 to the population. They never add a double to the population, always 1. Okay, well, it seems like bushwalk is not walking very fast. They're also warming their bodies with the rising sun.
Well, I don't know about not walking very fast. We are walking quite quickly, but it's just so beautiful that we decided to stop and just take it in one last time as that big ball just comes over the horizon and up into the sky. You can see that it's rising very, very quickly, but the colors and just the general appearance of our sunrise this morning is absolutely spectacular. And it's going to be interesting because it's going to apparently be a very warm day, and so I wonder if this wind, that's chilly wind that we've got at the moment, is going to subside a little bit and is then going to give way to a more berg wind, which is a hot wind. We'll see how it plays out. But it sounds like, I spoke to the guys, it sounds like Rexon told me that the lines that we're calling, the last time you heard them is definitely not on Djuma. They sound like they're a little bit to the north of us, up near somewhere in Buffelshoek, he reckons, but not far from our boundary. So we're not going to go and run around on the northern side just because those animals probably are not on our side at all. And instead, we're going to go try and see if we can find Hosana, Tandi, or Tlalamba. None of the 3 are actually anywhere near that section, and they haven't been seen this morning. So we're going to go try and see if we can find some tracks and see where they go. I'm pretty sure that Hosana maybe went south down the drainage. I know some of you were saying that you heard some noise coming from the dam cam, much like that duiker getting killed the night before. It was a very similar sound. So maybe Hosana was successful. I know yesterday when we were watching him yesterday morning, there was another little duiker that was running around behind the dam wall. So maybe he was successful and he was able to grab one of those little duikers and kill another one. It'll be interesting to see. So we'll go and have a little look for him and see what he's been up to during the course of the night. I would imagine that he's probably had his fill, walked south into the drainage line and just found a comfortable spot to sleep. It seems this is what he's been doing over the course of the last 2 weeks, is he makes these kills and then he goes and lies behind the dam wall somewhere in those thickets where he can get some peace and quiet and have a really good rest. And then when he's hungry, he comes back towards this pan to be able to start feeding again. So, David, yes, Hosanna will be the first obese. Well, actually, maybe not the first, but he'll definitely take after his dad in becoming a sausage leopard from killing all the time. So, Tingana always, when he was a little bit younger and was a bit fitter and healthier, he used to kill quite regularly, and he used to look like a sausage with 4 legs when you used to find him sometimes, especially if he was on a branch. He'd have this like bulging tummy and this big dewlap, and then there's just these 4 things that would stick out. So it was like a little hot dog with legs. And Hosanna is going to become the same if he's killed again. He's definitely got a appetite, or a bottomless tummy, I would say, because he just constantly seems like he's hunting and trying to feed. I suppose also a lot of it gets stolen from him, and a lot of it's being eaten by other leopards, so it's not as bad as it looks. But I'm hoping that he did get another kill. It's so nice having him around, that the more he can kill and the more times he feeds, the better. Now, talking about killing, there's some animals over there that Hosanna would probably enjoy feeding on. It hasn't quite gotten the technique for these guys as right as he has for the dikers so far at the dam, but I suppose he's got one of them already, so we'll see how that goes. But this is probably his easiest prey animal that comes down to the dam, because we have so many of them that will come and drink and will come and find water. Now, I do apologize if I lost me for a second there. We sometimes have a bit of gremlin issues. Right, well, we're going to move down towards the drainage line. While we do that, let's send you back across to James, who's also gazing upon the beautiful sunrise.
Yes, good morning everybody. We are basking in the light of the ginger sun as it shines upon our faces here on the eastern side of our normal traversing area. We are, of course, on Torchwood. My name is James Hendry, and on camera today we have got Craig. Craig, that was very fast, that little thumb flash there that happened. I'm not sure you may have missed it, everybody. There it is. Please talk to us, hashtag SafariLive on Twitter, and of course the YouTube chat stream. Jaw is just warming up still, so that I may enunciate all of my words correctly. We're going to try and drive down this road. I'm not sure that we're going to succeed in broadcasting that particular maneuver, but we'll see what happens. We're going to have a quick fossick around here on Torchwood, see what we can find. The signal is not fantastic here, so I don't think we'll stay for too long, but we'll just have a quick look and see what's going on. The lions we'd hoped to see, I think, are so far in the north that they are probably closer to Brent and Scott in the Mara than they are to us. So we may probably not see those particular lines. Anyway, that's a gorgeous picture that Craig has created for you there. Well done, Craig. He's grinning, of course, like a Cheshire cat, and shouting, jumping up and down. You know what he's like. For the first morning in about, well, quite a long time, we haven't opened with Hosanna fast asleep at the dam cam. I don't think actually anyone's been to look if he's there. So if you can let us know if you've seen him on the dam cam, that would be great. How's our signal, Emma? Should be okay going up this hill. Yvette, yes, it was indeed a beautiful sunrise. The sun is now up on yet another day here in the Western Kruger National Park. And, well, Wednesday morning, this is not a bad way to start it for those of us who are at work. Plenty of hyena tracks here. Not much in the way of cat track, though. So if you are new to the show, this little Torchwood, it is the
Terribly sorry about that. James must be in one of those bad signal areas. Don't worry, we're in a good one. We are still mobile while moving towards the south and the west. Just got to double check with any tracks, because as you know, you don't always find the animal directly. You find the tracks first, and then you get an idea of which direction they were going. Unless a leopard, when it's moving, calls again, it's hard to judge where it is, because it's calling And if it is moving while it's calling, it just will move maybe 5-10 meters. Very hard in a large area to get that sort of scope. So it could either have been coming in or going out. Really hard to say. What tracks are those? Of course, millions of hyena tracks all over the property every single day. We generally have one coming in saying hello to us on the open area there in the mornings, trying to figure out what we are doing there. There's a little mat that Ferg and Seb like to land on, and one morning it came and grabbed that mat. It's quite funny. But we're going to go all the way up to the Masai Mara with Taylor and some beautifully feathered friends.
Well, hello everybody, welcome to the Great Mara River. I've got to try and remember how to do an internet drive now because it has been quite some time. Hello for those of you new viewers, my name is Taylor McCurdy, and on camera with me today is Archie. And he's been stuck with me for the last couple of weeks now. I feel very sorry for him. But anyways, remember you can talk to us, interact with us, #SafariLive, and then chat to us on YouTube too. Now, shall I tell you what happened yesterday? Because we had a rather spectacular sighting, along with many radio and all sorts of other issues. But we won't get too much into that. Look at those beautiful birds. I'm sure you're all bouncing up and down and going, yay, yellow-billed storks. There's lots of them. Yesterday there were about 30 or 40 of them around here, but the rest of the flock hasn't seemed to arrive just yet. And there's a couple of crocodiles too. This is Crocodile City. Although it doesn't look like it, let me tell you, beneath the murky waters, I don't know where they're hiding. But yesterday, I don't know, Archie, how many crocs do you think were here? Like 20 or 30? 30. Archie says 30. He says I'm not being generous enough. That's a rather large crocodile there in the water. And there was a small little crossing that happened here with some zebra. And they swam across, but sadly a couple didn't make it. And it was just unbelievable how the crocodiles came from every corner of the river, torpedoing in like you've never seen before, and tearing apart a zebra. It was very gruesome. I mean, obviously crocodiles don't know how to eat politely. None of the animals do because they're wild. And then, of course, there's a lovely pod of hippos, which also provided a lot of entertainment for us, as this particular pod shall now be called the crocodile tail-biting pod of hippos. So very funny. So what we were watching is, as the crocodiles were eating a zebra, which we've been seeing over the last couple of weeks now, the hippos were sort of sneaking up. And I'm not even joking when I say, you know what, shall I prove it to you? Please, un momento, as I drop down out of frame, let me show you a picture, because it was so spectacular. Archie and I couldn't even breathe. We were laughing so hard, because I've never seen a hippo try and bite a crocodile's tail before, but this lot, they are experts. So let me scroll. Okay, I'm almost there, I promise. I'm almost there. Yeah, look at this. There's evidence. Now I need to make the screen nice and clean for you, because, oh, it's a touch screen. I didn't even know that. Okay, now I'm going to try and figure out how to do this. I'm just zooming in there. Is that okay for you, Archie? There is the hippo. A little bit too close. There is the hippo, and can you see the crocodile's tail? Yes, that is exactly what happened. How funny is that? I'm trying to think. I think it might be too close. See, normally I put things on the dashboard, but it's a bit different because I'm in a different vehicle. I'm in the sports car with the top off. How cool is that? Pretty amazing, hey? Cool, I'm going to put it down now. Now, Carol, great question from you. No, I've just forgotten it. Something about do the crocodiles just show up? What, can I have that again, Emma? Sorry. Like I said, I've got to get used to listening, and then questions, and then my mind is looking at all the birds that are flying around because I'm trying to wonder what they are. Yes. Do the crocodiles just show up for migration? No, Carol, they're around all the time. The hippos and the crocodiles are the residents in the Mara River, and as well as catfish, like you've never seen before too. That was also interesting. We've seen some really big catfish. So we'll just have another little look at what's going on in the river. It's quite quiet today. So the crocs are always here. However, most of the time they're just resting up on the banks or, lurking below the water. And you start to see a lot more activity during the migration, of course, when all the wildebeest, the zebra, and all the other wonderful animals arrive. And then, of course, also during sort of mating season, you see the crocodiles quite active. So normally from about October, November. It's quite awesome to see them. Otherwise, they're just relaxing. Well, there's some spur-wing lapwings also, just having a bit of a bathe. Everybody's having a bath. This is also a great spot to watch birds having a bath. There's a pair of Egyptian geese that also live around here. They were making quite a noise yesterday. But it's one of my favorite crossing points here. So let me quickly show you where they cross. So you can see up onto the left, basically just over here, is where the zebras will come down around. There's not much. I did hear some bleating from the zebras. Is that the right word to use to describe the call of a zebra? I never really know. Anyways, they come down there, and then they've got to take the plunge, and they sort of go into the water. And it is so deep. They walk about maybe 10 feet, and then there's a huge drop. There's a massive channel there. So then they have to swim, and that current is so strong. It looks very placid, don't you think? But it is so deceiving, and only after watching animals cross here do you realize how challenging it is for them. And then those rocks, shame. Those poor animals, watching them struggle trying to get up on the rocks. You think that the water, the crocodiles, the current would be enough. No, then they've actually got to try and climb on up there. And there was a zebra, sadly, that was injured by the crocodiles, had a broken leg, and then I don't know if it was a tendon or something that was severed, or some muscle, I don't know, in the other leg, and it couldn't walk. It pulled itself out of the water with its front legs. It was very sad. I was very distraught watching it. But I don't see it anymore. And we're pretty much in the territory of the North Clan, the hyenas that Jamie's been following so closely for the last year. So they actually also moved down towards the river. So I think that I'm hoping that they put the poor zebra out of its misery. Otherwise, there's also lots of lions around here, the Paradise Pride. You can imagine. They're also around here. Angie, now, with regards to the river cams, I bet you're all looking forward to me stumbling over my words. Yep. So we are going to be putting them up. We've obviously just got lots and lots of things that we needed to sort out that have sort of more of a priority than the river cameras. But I reckon in the next couple of days they will be going up again. From my understanding, we're going to put one at Main North, one of the most prominent crossings, so it kind of meanders all the way around a little bit further southeast from where we are at the moment. And then I think we're going to have some more little cameras here just to sort of help me in terms of finding the animals. So yeah, very exciting. Now, I'm so happy because it's been such a long time since Tristan and I have been on safari together. So let's go to my dear friend Tristina, who's staring at the sunrise.
Yes, MacMuddy, it has been quite some time since we have been on a safari live together, but it's still in different locations at this stage, so I don't know if we'll ever get that right to be in the same location at once. But I'm glad Taylor's back and live. I'm sure many of you are as well, and I'm sure she's having the most wonderful time around the crossing. Seems like it. I see these updates every day, and sometimes I get a little bit jealous. But we're doing what we love to do anyway, and so that means that we are looking at leopard tracks. Now, they're very, very difficult to see, so when you're walking around here, you would think that leopard tracks are often quite easy, but they can be quite tough. Sometimes all you're going to see is toes, and so if we have a look here, you can see the oval-shaped toe there, and another oval-shaped toe there, and another one there. The back pad area is almost non-existent at this stage, and the furthest right toe is very difficult to see. So sometimes all you're looking for is this shape here to indicate where a leopard went. So sometimes it'll even just be that one toe by itself. We know it's a leopard and not a hyena because, well, the toe is very oval and not squashed together. And if you look on the front here, if there was a claw, it would be very easy to see it. We would have seen a little claw coming out, and that would have made it quite quick and easy to find out. Now, this particular track belongs to Thandi, so it's a female leopard. You can see by the size, but we know that they're not the freshest of tracks. They're not from this morning. It means they left last night, and the reason why I know they left last night is if you have a look here, you'll see that there's a line coming down there, another line over here, and one line there, and a little claw mark over there. That's all on top of Thandi's track, and this is for a spur file. So this would have been maybe a Natal spur file or a crested Franklin. One of those two would have been walking here, and they've walked on top of Thandi's track from the night. So these are most definitely from during the night. We know that the spur files and the Franklins get active pretty early on in the morning, and so they've walked on top here during the course of the morning. Now there's tracks for both Thandi and Kalamba heading southwards. We haven't found a track yet for Hosanna, but what is interesting is we did find a track for what looks like Tingana, or a big male leopard, coming north northwards up towards Twin Dams, and I mean up Twin Dams towards the dam itself. And I wonder if maybe Tingana didn't make an appearance at some point last night as well, because I believe the tracks come all the way from Little Gari over Gari Main and then go all the way northwards. So it'll be interesting to see which way they went. Right, now while I check on these tracks and we're going to try and work out where everybody went and which ones we're actually going to follow, let's send you across to James, who's found himself, well, a rather large family.
Here's a large family of elephants. That's where we are now. Finally, we found some signal and some elephants. We won't move from here. We'll just observe the ellies from where we sit. I apologise for our lack of signal earlier, but really there's nothing I can do. Thank you, Emma. Yes, I can see their elephants. And they're obviously completely into their winter forage at this stage. No, Deborah, they are not. The answer that certainly birth control methods have been tried on elephants. They have tried chemically. You can do it chemically. You can shoot an elephant in the backside with a hormonal treatment, much like a sort of human hormonal treatment, but you have to do it every month, which means that in a population of some 15,000, it is almost impossible to shoot 7,500 elephants every month with the birth control hormone. And so there are certainly hormonal treatments that work. There are treatments that are slightly more invasive, where you can, give the elephant an operation that renders it sterile. There are no measures that are economically or I think ethically viable at the moment. That does beg the question, though, whether or not there are too many elephants, and I don't believe that answer has been comprehensively or scientifically established yet. For a long time there was this thought that 7,500 elephants was the number of elephants that needed to be maintained in the Greater Kruger National Park, and that became part of dogma, and nobody ever questioned where it came from, and is much the same as a lot of our nutritional science, for example, that you need to eat a carbohydrate-rich diet, for example, because that's healthy, and you mustn't eat saturated fats. And that became part of what everyone just knew, and is now being sort of scientifically proven to be untrue, and in much the same way, so it is with the elephants and 7,500. It was a thumbsuck figure when eventually somebody said, well, hang on, who said there should be 7,500? Why did they say this? It's a thumbsuck figure by a supposed elephant expert, and, fairly coincidentally, you might say, if you're a little bit more cynical like I am, you might not think it's so much of a coincidence, but coincidentally, in order to maintain a population of 7,500 elephants, you have to shoot a certain number every year, and that, I forget exactly what that number was, but it was the exact same number that the elephant abattoir at Skukuza was able to process per year. So the culling process, which ended in 1996 odd, seemed to be cynically a meat business, as well as being supposedly a conservation business. Now the other side of that is, well, are the elephants doing damage? Well, there's no question that elephants completely... okay, we're not going to discuss that. Let's go across to Steve with the Daika.
Well, actually, these are Steenbok. You can see by the brown coloration. Dakas are more grey and also have a bit more of a funny face. And this is a breeding pair, the male on the right with his head down, the female with her head up, being very vigilant. Now, we pulled up to them and they were actually going through a little bit of a mating ritual. The male was up behind testing her with his foreleg between her back legs, which is quite common in a number of antelope, but I've never seen Steenbok mating before. So he was definitely interested. and then they moved off from the firebreak burnt area, which is on our left-hand side. They moved back over to the more sort of secretive sort of areas of the thicker bush, and the male followed right behind and seemed interested again, but since we turned on the camera, or you've come to us, he has lost interest. And now he is filling his belly with nutrient-rich food. Maybe he will turn around again and show us his intentions. He seems to be a little bit darker in colour, which is quite strange. I've never really compared two together. Look how selectively they are feeding. Very small mouth parts. He's able to access the smallest of leaves and bits and pieces on the grass that are coming out. And like all ruminants, they fill their belly before going and sitting somewhere quietly and ruminating. But with the steenbok, because they're small body size, they go through periods of 20 to 30 minutes of feeding and then 20 to 30 minutes of rumination. It's a very, very sort of non-stop process for them, because they need to be able to generate lots of energy. The smaller your size in sort of animal size, the more energy is required to maintain your body process, as opposed to a much larger animal. For example, a buffalo in comparison to a steenbok. They can go through sort of longer bouts of feeding and then longer bouts of rumination, whereas the steenbok needs to access that nutrients. Just because they've been feeding doesn't mean the body is digesting what they've taken in. So they go through 20 to 30 minutes of high intense feeding, followed by 20 to 30 minutes of proper rumination. Where has my girlfriend gone? He is going to move out and find her again, and we are going to move off, but let's go back over to James, who has got the largest feeding mammal around.
We're still with our beautiful little herd of elephants. I'm just going to talk quite quietly here. This cow has come very close to us. She's totally relaxed. She's only about 3 meters away from us, about 10 feet. You can see her long, thin tusks. There's almost sort of Mara-style tusks. I don't want to move, just because she's so close and being so confiding. But those tusks could probably be about, well, they are roughly 2.5 feet long, I guess. They won't get much bigger. She's pretty much full age. Let's move a little bit. There's another little one crossing. I'm just trying to decide where we're going to get signal. I think we'll be okay if we go this way. We'll just do a very gentle move around. Unfortunately, Wendy is in a state of some disrepair at the moment. To be as quiet as possible. There we go. Oof, they are wonderful. These guys are so relaxed. They're now being charged by a vicious elephant, everybody. Hold on to your seats. Good morning. Yes, hello. Oh my goodness. That is magic. Hi, little thing. You're so little. Probably about a year old, maybe even younger. Look, now pretending to use its trunk, which it's not so good at using just yet. Now a bit ashamed. Have a little bit of a run now. Chasing a drongo. That's amazing. I think what's even more amazing than the fact that it approached us like that was the manner in which it approached us. Young bulls especially, will hold their ears out and sort of do little charges at you, and that one seemed far more to be curious and coming to have a look. Although now it's attacking a bush. Maybe it's a little cow. Oh, that drongo is... Every time the drongo lands on the ground, she chases it. There's another little one there with Mum at the back. And you can see that one's even taller. This one's slightly taller than our little friend. Probably just over a year old. We are sort of surrounded here. It's fantastic. And they're not reacting to us at all. Now, back in line with that discussion I was having earlier, the little chat about culling and that sort of thing resulted in it being impossible to have an elephant sighting like this. Elephants simply did not tolerate being near human beings like this. And it was always fairly nerve-wracking going into an elephant sighting. And it's resulted in a lot of South Africans, if they come to the bush, if they are older South Africans and they've grown up going to the Kruger Park in private vehicles, they're quite nervous of elephants. Look at this one here. Hello. But now, because the culling hasn't happened for so long, we get unbelievable sightings like this. That elephant is not more than, well, at one stage 3 feet from the car. Hi. Young bull. And then just to quickly close off what I was saying earlier, the 7,500, which is that sort of thumbsuck number, was derived, we don't really know how or why, but people say, well, elephants damage the bush, which is a particularly unhelpful statement, verging on silly, because yes, of course they damage the bush, but so does everything that eats a plant. It damages that plant. So does everything that eats. There is nothing here that has no effect, that treads completely without effect on the earth. Yes, elephants have much more of an effect than some animals. We see a much more visible effect, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. So do they modify the structure of the vegetation? Of course they do. Is that a bad thing for the vegetation? Well, I don't know that it should be. Certainly there are large swathes of the Kruger National Park that are very densely wooded. And would that be the case if the elephants had been left to sort of roam, if there were twice the number of elephants? Should we perhaps just let the elephant numbers regulate themselves in 3.5 million hectares or 8.5 million acres? Is that a big enough area for the population to regulate itself? Nobody really knows the answer to this question. But it's dangerous as human beings when we start thinking that we know best, that we in some way have enough information to be making decisions about how many elephants there should be in a particular area. Obviously it's different if you're on a small reserve of 5,000 hectares or so, sort of 12,000 acres, because then you probably do need to manage your elephant population. You need to take elephants on and off. You want to prevent inbreeding. There's no space for elephants to move, but here that's not the case. Let's sneak a little bit forward. This really is a marvellous elephant sighting. Maritza, I'm not sure what I would ask a baby elephant, if I could ask a baby elephant anything. You'd probably get a lot of gobbledygook, as you might from asking a human child something. I think I'd quite like to ask the oldest elephant in the park a few questions about the old days, when they were born, how things have changed, what they heard from their parents about how things have changed, because of course the oldest elephants in the park, let's say they're about 60 years old. I guess they'd have been born, what does that take us? To the, say 1960, 1962 odd. And their parents, let's say, died or would have been born just about at the turn of the 20th century. So that would have been fascinating information to have got from them about what it was like back then, what the vegetation looked like, and if there was some sort of oral record of what it was like 200 years ago. Because, of course, when we make these decisions about how the landscape should look, or if this is a healthy landscape or an unhealthy landscape, we are making assumptions based on not very much, quite often. We don't know what this place looked like before human beings arrived here in numbers and started shooting elephants and putting up fences. And so it's all largely guesswork. Right, I believe that the great forensic investigator T. Dix has now got something to show you.
Well, I don't know if we can be a forensic investigator, given that this is just glaringly obvious sign of, well, death and destruction. So if you are a sensitive viewer, probably now is not the time to be watching what's going on here. But essentially we were walking along trying to follow tracks for Thandi and Kalamba and try to find Hosana tracks, and we stumbled across this. Unfortunately, this is a dead dwarf mongoose. This has been killed by Kalamba by the looks of things. I mean, we can't say for 100% sure, but her tracks are the only ones around this dwarf mongoose. And while it is very, very sad that this mongoose has been executed and killed and not eaten, because Herbie and I were actually just talking about this. I have seen leopards eat this before, but not many. And Herbie says he's seen many, many, many dwarf mongoose killed and not eaten by both wild dogs and leopard. And so she probably, in all likelihood, saw this, chased it and killed it, and then didn't actually feed on it. And it's interesting because it for us, it would be her first kill that we actually know of. It would be, we haven't seen her kill anything ourselves, but this is the first evidence that we've got that she's made a successful kill. Now, of course, it's not a very big meal, and it's not something she ate, but it still takes a bit of skill to catch one of these guys. They are not slow creatures. They are pretty quick, and so she managed to somehow grab it. And you can actually see, if you look around the shoulder blade area here, this is where she grabbed it, and she would have broken the spine. There's actually a bit of a disjoint over there. So this is where she would have bitten down on it and broken the spine. And then other than that, she hasn't really done too much. Now, this is an adult dwarf mongoose. It looks quite small, but it is an adult. And she's basically killed it and then left it. And her tracks are all around here. It looks like she played around with it and ran up and down, as young cubs do often with their first kills, is that they play a lot more than you would think. Now, it is going to get eaten eventually. It's not going to be eaten by the leopards, but we'll find that things like, well, ants, various types of insects will come and feed off it, and we might even find something like a battalier eagle might spot this and come down and have a little feed, or a tawny eagle, something like that. What I wanted to do, though, is I wanted just to turn it over and just to see. It is quite soft still, and there we go. It's very seldom we get an opportunity to actually look at a dwarf mongoose this close, but you can see I wanted to show you their feet. So when we look for their tracks, we often talk about, claws and all those kind of things, and you can see quite clearly on this one where those little claws are that come out, and then its little toes over there, and then its pad at the back, and its back pad often shows signs of quite a long foot, and that's because you can see the hair has actually gone all the way, because that's where they actually sit down on their back legs and the hair wears away. Now, on the front foot, it's a slightly different shape. I want to try and open the front foot out a little bit for you. I know it's a bit macabre, but it's a good study of their anatomy, because we very seldom get to see these kind of things. So you can see they've got quite pointy, long toes, and then this sort of V shape coming off the back. And in the tracks, when you see them, you won't actually see that V shape. You'll see just a small sort of abrupt end to their track itself, and then those very long claws that come out, but that are very close to the toes. Some of the mongoose species will be a little bit further away, so something like a white-tailed mongoose or a slender mongoose, the claw actually shows quite far from the tip of the toe. But amazing actually to have a look. It's still quite soft and still quite squidgy, so I think it was probably killed very late yesterday afternoon, maybe when Tlalamba went up into the tree. That's probably when it was killed, but it hasn't gone too stiff yet. Now, Kelly, I mean, Tlalamba would eat this already. Remember, she's eating meat. She was eating that carcass yesterday that Hosanna had, and she was up in the tree, so she's already eating meat, and she could potentially eat it. Why they don't eat dwarf mongooses that much, I don't know. So Herbie reckons that they just taste very bad and smell quite strong, and so that's why wild dogs and leopard very seldom actually feed on them. Like, I have seen cubs eat them. Cubs are the same age as Tlalamba and even younger feed off them, but it's never much. They just kind of eat a little bit, and then they leave the tail and the back legs and the head lying there. So maybe it's got a very strong smell to it. Maybe because it's another carnivore, they're not that interested. I mean, I suppose it's also whether or not they're desperate. If they're in a situation where they've not eaten for a while, maybe they would try and eat it just to gain a bit of nutrients. But sad for this poor little dwarf mongoose. It's obviously never nice when you see something being killed, but I suppose a bit of a celebration that Tlalamba is already starting to actually start hunting and finding food. Oh, Laura, you want to see its teeth? Okay, let's try. I suppose it's a good lesson in biology, so I need to try and find a few sticks to try and open its little mouth. Can we see the teeth there, David? Okay, so there we go. So there's as much as I can show the teeth as possible. The jaw is pretty locked shut, so I'm going to battle to pry it open. But you can see quite clearly that these guys have got nasty, nasty teeth inside there, typical of a predator or a carnivore. And these guys are our smallest carnivore that we've got out here, and so they'll use those teeth to go after various insects. And it's a rather sticky end inside there, isn't it? It looks quite nasty. David, does it look pretty hectic inside there? It looks scary. Well, it is scary if you're a little beetle that's being shoved down there, or a snake or a scorpion. You're not going to be very happy with seeing those noshes as you meet your demise. So very interesting to see. I was hoping that I could open the jaw somehow, but like I say, it's pretty much locked shut. But you can see typical dental structure of a carnivore, big sharp teeth. And let me get myself out of a bush quickly. So it's one of those mornings where you want to avoid the bush as much as possible and rather stand up in a better way. Anyway, we're going to carry on. We're going to try and see where these trucks go. There's also Impala's alarm calling to our north, so we're going to have a look. But in the meantime, let's send you to Brent.
Oh, good morning, and welcome to a windy Masai Mara. My name is, of course, Brent Smith, and I have Veerm on camera, and you can see I'm in a rush. We've spotted a whole lot of very suspicious zebra. We've got them all staring down into a valley, and we're trying to get, into a spot where we can see down into that valley. Now, this is prime sausage tree pride territory, and they've been missing for about a week now. They went into this area to the right here, which is about more or less about nearly 20,000 acres with no roads. So we've been hoping for them to come back across onto the burnt area. Oh, there's zebra running. What is going on? Where? Okay, so that's where the suspicious zebra were. You can see them. They're now starting to run. And the topi are also staring down in that area. So are the eland. I've got a feeling something's up, but I want to just carry on a little bit further down the road to where I can see a bit more clearly.
Okay. I heard Brent's name and I was like, yay, Brent! So he's gone. Sorry about that. I don't know what happened with the signal. But we are on our western side. We've done an enormous loop around. There was some tracks of some wild dogs on the western boundary, but they got driven over and they disappeared. So who knows where they've gone. Could have been from yesterday or even the day before. We weren't very, very fresh, but we thought, let's have a little follow, shall we? And now we've come all the way around to the western side. We're in the open areas just north of Sandy Patch now. Still checking, seeing whatever tracks might be coming in. Still got a feeling that we might have some form of lion activity. I mean, we heard lots of calling this morning, but that leopard that I heard calling, we didn't get any tracks coming in after our little Steenbok activity. No leopard activity coming in. Oh, look at a little family of squirrels warming up there in the sunshine. There they go. Get them, Fergie. Oh, hello. And there's a couple more below them, nice and squished together. There we go. There's his hole in the tree. Oh, he's turned around. There's a couple of his friends enjoying the early morning sunshine. A beautiful place to be hanging out on the exposed western side of a tree, warming up in the sunshine from the night of cold. It's really, really cool to spend time with squirrels that aren't running around in fear of their life from leopards. And how interesting it is that Tristan found that dwarf mongoose killed by Tlalamba. Very, very cool to find those sort of things. And no wonder dwarf mongoose make the noise they make when they see a leopard, because they know if they get caught, they're going to get played with and maybe not even eaten. What a waste. Squirrels have the same sort of feeling. Leopards can catch them. As fast and nimble as they seem, they are very catchable by a leopard. They've got to be constantly vigilant and aware. And obviously it helps to be nice and warm when the time comes. No one likes to sprint when their muscles are still cold. And talking about that, wherever Dave is, Conrad's gone for a little bit of leave, but Dave is going to be doing some sprints with me after breakfast, I hope. Or it'll be me on my own this morning. Anyone else is welcome to join. Ferg, you want to do some sprints this morning? No. Ferg's not keen. You've got your running shoes on, I saw already. Okay, well, the squirrel is warming up. Seems like in the Mara we are sorting out the technical issues there. Brent has found himself the fastest land mammal. I wonder what it is they are going to be doing in the morning. Let's go and have a look.
Oh, let's get a bit closer. Oh, apparently you're live with us. Welcome. So it wasn't the Sausage Tree Pride. I seem to be helping Scotty these days because we found his characters, and it is Naratoy and her young son. So Naratoy the cheetah, and she had 2 boys earlier this year. Unfortunately, she lost one. We're not sure what happened to it, but there we go. Isn't that wonderful? So the suspicious zebra and suspicious topi indeed led us to a cat, not the cats we were looking for, but as 100% live. And I think they might have been hunting Tommies, but all the watchful eyes of the zebra and topi, look at them, all staring at her. There's probably about, in this area alone, this very small area of the burn, probably about 500 zebra at the moment. And that's just a small portion of them. Isn't this wonderful? Now, remember, now that we're a bit calmer, I think they might have had an attempt at a Tommy or an Oribi out on the burn. And you can see, yesterday I think they killed a baby impala, so not much food for 2 cheetahs. So let's hope that one of these days they're going to catch something live again for us. Oh, there we go. She might have spotted something that might be more to her taste, like a Thompson's gazelle. So there are, as I said, lots of animals out on the burn here, and probably the most Thompson's gazelles I've seen in one area. Now, Rosh was wondering, have we seen the musketeers? Unfortunately not. This year we're focusing our attentions in the Mara Triangle, Rosh, and the musketeers are on the other side of the Mara River. So the cheetahs we see regularly here are Naratoy and her young boy, the ones we're looking at right now, Kakenya, which is actually Naratoy's mother, and then Naserian we see even less. Now Naserian is Naratoy's sister from the same litter. She seems to spend most of her time south in Tanzania in the Serengeti, and actually I think she might have spotted a hyena. See that skulking behavior? She might have spotted a hyena. Definitely not a lion, because if it was a lion she'd be moving off a little bit more quickly. I think she spotted a hyena in the distance somewhere, and she's trying to make some space. Now there is a hyena den not too far from here, so the disturbed antelope and zebra would have definitely alerted the hyena. They would have picked up on that and maybe come to investigate to see if there was a kill to steal. But now she's heading towards that big herd of zebra. Not always, but in some situations, zebra will even chase female cheetah. Now, we're about to see her come right next to all these zebra. Now, Lauren, unfortunately not for this cheetah. She's not going to be able to kill an adult zebra, but a young zebra, definitely a possibility. But zebras can be quite violent in the defense of their young, especially against a cat like cheetah. Cheetah are not quite as powerful as lions or leopards. Even a leopard would struggle to take down an adult zebra. They are very strong animals. So there we go. Isn't that a magnificent sight on this cloudy morning here in the Mara? The cheetah walking towards that large herd of zebra. Remember, this is 100% live. Hashtag SafariLive if you have any questions. Now you can see the zebra aren't too perturbed. They're keeping a watchful eye on her, but they're not too perturbed. They would definitely have a far greater reaction to lions, for example. Isn't that absolutely stunning? Hello, Linda. Linda is wondering, is it hard for predators to hide? Oh, that's just the little boy following mom. As I say, I think she was skulking away. Linda, I will get to your question in a second. But she's now using the zebra almost as cover, possibly to try get further away from a potential threat of that hyena that she spotted in the distance. No, she is looking like there might be interest. If there was a little zebra foal, she might definitely show some interest. Okay, we're going to have to move, and while we move, we're going to answer Linda's question. Linda, so burnt areas that are really open like this are both positive and negatives for the predators. Now, you can see the fire didn't burn every patch of grass, so there's still quite a bit of cover that the predators are able to use to hunt with quite good effect on these open areas. The other thing is this green flush of grass. Oh, sorry, the one problem for us is we actually change color every day when we're out on the burn, because that's the soot and smoke stains us. So we actually get a spray-on tan via dust out here. But so yes, but the thing is that there's such congregations of animals on freshly burnt grass that there's always going to be that opportunity that there's one that's been injured or wounded or slightly ill, that it can make hunting quite a bit easier. The lions have also been spending a lot of time on the burn, so I'm going to let's just try get away from the dust a little bit. It's going to take us a little while to get back towards the cheetah. We want to make sure we keep our distance and not disturb them. Okay. Now she is heading to an area where she actually had this cub originally, was born just in the valley over here. So while I negotiate my way through here, let's send you back to Juma, where you do tracking in a slightly different way to the Mara.
We do, Brenty, and while you use your eyes to look for things, we have to use our senses to try and find tracks. Then we follow those to find them. But we're on the tracks of another spotty cat. These are as fresh as you can get. This is a track for little Hosanna that has crossed the road while we've been around. So it's on top of all of the vehicle tracks. Obviously, when we were sitting with our dwarf mongoose, I think he was around watching us and then crossed the road. These are very, very fresh. They're on top of all the vehicles, and a number of vehicles have been driving around since we've been down in the drainage. Now, we know that they're Hosanna's tracks, just from a size point of view. Still not quite as big as Tingana's, and it's been really nice to actually come and have a look properly to see his size of his tracks. It's been a while since I've really studied them, but he's definitely still a little smaller than what Hosanna's got. I mean, what Tingana has. But what's nice is if you have a look here, you'll see this toe has got a nice unique shape to it. So it's almost like a diamond shape. So it comes out here, and then it has quite a straight edge there. So if you look on the toe to the right, you see how much more rounded that is, whereas this one has got this nice little straight edge, and it's actually quite noticeable in many of his tracks. So this is something that we can look out for if we're going to try and identify him or tracks as his. So really quite nice to see. You can see that perfect back pad over there, and how this is all flattened. There's crisp edges. So this is from now, this morning, which is fantastic news. So we're going to try and follow these. You can see I marked them out going over the road, and there's nowhere have they been touched by a vehicle, by an animal, or anything like that. So they're going into this block. We're going to try and see if we can find any sign of it. I know, like I say, that many of you were saying that there was distress calls of a duiker, or what you thought was a duiker. So maybe, just maybe, we'll find him in this block somewhere with a kill. I would think, though, in all honesty, I actually think, now that I've seen these tracks, that little dwarf mongoose might have been killed by Hosanna this morning. Because after we went away, we looked at that dwarf mongoose, and the dwarf mongoose is still fairly pliable and warm. Whereas if you had it killed yesterday, it would have been quite stiff. And even though Tlalamba's tracks are there, I think that's where she came down and just went through to the carcass. I don't think she actually killed that. I think it might have been Hosanna. And when we came down towards it, he maybe got a little fright and kind of came up onto the road here. So we're going to just try and have a little look. He comes straight up onto a pathway and then walks into this block. So there was Impala's alarm calling on this northern side. Very possible that he's not too far away from us, so it's super exciting to be able to see if we can track him down again. What is interesting, though, is that his behavior on foot has changed a little bit. He used to be very, very, very relaxed on foot, and you could get seriously close to him and he wouldn't worry at all. Whereas now he's a little bit more shy. Every time we found him on foot, he kind of just trots off a little bit. He's not as happy about us being that close, and so we'll kind of try follow him, but if we see any signs of him trotting away, we'll probably leave those tracks. We don't want to disturb him too much, but it seems as though he cut off into this area, and so while I do that, let's send you across to James, who's on Torchwood, and hopefully he's going to find something of interest on that side.
Well, we haven't found anything just yet, but we have found tracks of, I think, Tingana, big male leopard, coming down towards towards Chitwa, basically, onto this drainage line that goes down towards Chitwa Dam. I don't think they're very fresh, but it would explain where he has been for the last little while. It's very nice. I'm getting an update that we've just seen Tingana's tracks, which is fantastic. It's very exciting. It's, you know, as you get older, you do forget things, so it's nice to be reminded every so often what you've just seen. For those of you wondering, teasing Emma, who's directing today. They have a tremendously complicated radio system that they have to try and get a handle on, which means sometimes they talk to people they don't intend to. There is a nest of a squirrel. Do you see the bottom limb there? Yeah, so just travel up to the left there. Yes, and then you see that sort of feathery bit sticking out. There's a hole there. That's it. That's it. He's just gone inside there. There's a squirrel in there, everyone. Naturally, now not going to come out. Beastly little rodent. Come on. Come and say hello. Oh, there are two others. They seem to be in flagrante delicto. Not anymore, they've just let each other go. There we go. Oh! They were embarrassed. They were definitely caught in the act, everyone. I think that one's going back towards the little den, the little nest. Huh. This tree is full of squirrels. Very nice. I can also see the picture of the FLIR, or the thermal camera, and actually the tree is pretty hot in comparison with the mammal. Michael, no luck searching for the hyena den, I'm afraid. We have been trying, but really there is no hyena den worth speaking of at the moment. That's gorgeous. That's wonderful. The little things having their morning exercise up and down the tree. I've often wished I could climb a tree like that. Nothing in the nest there. No. Okay, cool. Let's carry on. We'll drive down towards the waterhole at Chitwa, see if we don't find any more male leopard tracks. The lions, it would seem, are well north. That is the Avoca boys, and I don't know if anyone's told you this, certainly it's been all over social media, which obviously most of you are very adept at using. The Avoca boys have been mating with Amber Eyes and one other lioness, and I'm not sure which lioness it was, quite possible, well, it's definitely one of the Nkuhumas. And so we're hopefully A, going to have some cubs at some stage, but B, it kind of confirms the end of the reign of the Birmingham boys in this particular area, and that's not because they were beaten up or thrown out, it's just because they moved out. So that's fascinating stuff. Never seen it happen before like that, and very interesting that we had a completely peaceful coup. Alrighty, we won't have any signal down there, so we'll go up towards the waterhole and come back around that way, I think. I haven't heard anything on the radio, so I don't think he's been found. Gorgeous day. I believe Steve said it was going to be 33 degrees Celsius. That's enormous. Be hot. Alrighty. Let's go back up to Brent Leo Smith. He must be very excited to be with a cheetah and a cheetah's cub in a few seconds from now.
Well, hopefully we have some success with the other spotted cat back in South Africa later. But for now, we're sticking with the gorgeous Naratoy and her naughty little boy. Now, they have eaten, but it doesn't look like they are incredibly well fed. And they definitely have had a snack since I last saw them. He is so curious at this age, and often little cheetah boys like this will chase plovers and testiculars and birds. Now, hi Dizzy Lizzie. Unfortunately, we have not been operating on the other side of the river where Malika's cubs are, so we actually don't know what's happening in that area. As I say, we've been focusing our intentions this year solely in the Mara Triangle. So, unfortunately, I forgot to mention two other cheetah we do see regularly outside of the females, which are the two border boys. They're two quite old male cheetah, about 6 or 7 years old, maybe a little bit older, that patrol between the Serengeti and the Masai Mara regularly. Look at him. Doesn't he look naughty? Oh, watch where you put your feet, little man. Now, cheetah IDs can be quite difficult. So my sort of little trick is I always look at the ends of their tails, the bars around the ends of their tails. I find that to be often the easiest way to get the ID. Oh, he even looks like he's got a tiger tail. easiest way to ID the individual cheetahs. Now, if we look at Narrow Toy's tail, she's got 3 very broad black bands just after the white tip. So that's how I ID Narrow Toy, and you can see her little boy has got quite a sort of not very distinct band, and then a little white band, and then a very big thick band again. Now, unlike leopards for me, I find quite a lot easier to identify the different individuals quickly. But the more time we spend with these cheetahs, of course, it becomes easier. But for those of you trying to ID the cheetahs, that's my little trick. I always look at the bars on the end of their tail. I find that the easiest way to ID the different individuals. So it looks like we're going to leave the burn and head into some of the longer grass. Now, quickly across to Steve.
Fascinating there. Unfortunately, the crocodile, well, you can see the croc actually. The impala has somehow got itself wedged on that island, and the crocodile and the impala were on the same island, and we would have seen them both there. Unfortunately, it does take 10 seconds to get from the Mara to here, through no one's fault. But the croc is very clearly trying to eat that impala, and the impala, I think, is in some distress. It seemed to be limping, and I wonder if it wasn't chased there by wild dogs, or perhaps even by a leopard or something. Now, that little island has come up fairly recently. It's where the baby hippos used to stand, but they were in the water when they were standing there. I don't know if you can, I mean, it looks like it can barely move. It really is quite, it's quite something, because if ever there was a gauntlet to be swum, well, this is it. There you can see the croc waiting, a la Mara. So instead of thousands of crocodiles and thousands of animals trying to cross the Mara River, we have one animal, an impala, trying to get away from one crocodile. No, actually walking okay is that impala. Now, I don't know if any of you watched or saw in September 2 years ago now, when we watched a crocodile swimming after a herd of Thompson's gazelles. You have no idea how fast those crocs can be in the water, and they, at this range, there is no way the impala would escape. Apparently we might do an action broadcast. Emma, I don't think anything's going to happen, but if you would like to do one, we can do one. I don't think the impala's about to leap into the water. I might be wrong, of course. It'll probably now leap into the water immediately. But there's no ways the impala will escape. Unless the crocodile wasn't interested. But they were sitting on the same island right next to each other. And of course, the ability of these animals to remember what's going on. So will that impala remember that there's a croc quite close by? At some stage, they just will take the plunge. I wonder if it wasn't chased there by dogs earlier this morning, perhaps. Or even late last night. Oh, here we go. Eventually, hunger must get the better of the impala. It's one of these sort of standoffs that happens forever. Yeah, no, I don't think that the hippos are going to help our impala here, Carol. I think they are watching with interest. Carol's comment probably comes from the fact that it does appear that hippo do sometimes almost seem to protect other animals from crocodiles, but they have almost as often been seen killing the animals that they've saved from the crocodiles. I'm just getting an update now from Michael Fleetwood saying that it was 2 Talamati lionesses that were being mated by the Avoca boys yesterday. That may be true. Thank you, Michael, for that. I'm afraid I have no idea. I got an update that it was amber eyes. I had no evidence, though, that it was, so you may well be right, Michael. Maybe it was Talamati lionesses. I'd love to know where you're getting your intelligence from, Michael. M. Cross, I think that would be giving the crocodile a little bit too much intellectual credit. I don't think that... I'm not sure that it would think as far as getting onto the land to chase something into the water so that it could catch it. It's just not within its realm of normal hunting strategy, you see. I'll tell you what might chase it off there eventually, though, is a hippo. Hippo can be strangely nasty sometimes. Poor young impala. I can only think it was chased there by wild dogs. Maybe a leopard, but I think a leopard actually would have gone after it. Yes, Crocky's moving round now. Let me just get my binoculars out. Yeah, I mean, that impala is drenched. So this happened sometime. This happened probably this morning, I think. That the poor old impala was chased up there. Let's see if Crocky the croc gets out of the water. I suspect the croc actually only went into the water because we arrived. They just are so malevolent, aren't they? They have such a malevolent look to them. Crocodile. It's very difficult to feel affection for a crocodile. Kelly, there are lots and lots of birds around the area right now. You're talking about the ones that are calling. There are some Cape Glossy starlings, there are some Birchall starlings, there are some green pigeons. I see this jackalberry tree above me is coming into fruit, so that's why there's so much activity here. A couple of crested barbets and that sort of thing, just up here. So I think that's what's going on there. There's a little barbet. I don't know if you can see it there, Craig. Lowish down. No, it's now, well, sort of. There we go. There we are, a little crested barbet. And then there are some swallows too. I saw some musk swallows. Oh, the crocodile's eaten him. I'm joking, don't worry. That was just a joke. It's called crying crocodile. Another joke. I think the crocodile is actually standing on the ground now. I don't think it's floating there. It thinks it's beautifully disguised, and if it stays still for long enough, the impala will not figure out that it's there. Alright, the other person, of course, who's been sitting with lots of crocodiles and their victims is Taylor McCurdy.
look at what we've got. Sorry, it's not quite crocodile stalking impala, but it is a black-headed heron, and I absolutely love herons. And I think it's seen something in that tall grass. Now, I'm surprised that there is so much tall grass in that little spot there. Got lucky because, as I'm sure Brent has told you, we've had some burns recently here in the Mara Triangle, as well as them also burning in the Serengeti, so in Tanzania, just south of the border of the Mara Triangle. And, of course, that nice dense patch of grass over there is going to provide shelter for mice and rats and gerbils and any other sort of rodents, even lizards and snakes. And this heron will eat an abundance of things. It doesn't just eat small mammals, it will also eat reptiles. So if there are lizards here too, it will go for them. And on a cold day like today, I don't think there's going to be too much moving around, because it is quite miserable in the Mara this morning. So I think it has seen something down in the grass. But what? I'm not sure. And I've actually seen more black-headed herons eating snakes than I've seen secretary birds, and secretary birds are known to eat snakes. I always find that quite funny. Well, especially up in here, I've seen the secretary birds eating lots of snakes down in the Eastern Cape of South Africa. However, I've yet to see a secretary bird in the Mara catch one. So come on, heron, catch us something. Now, the reason, while we wait for this heron to do something spectacular, the reason why I'm in this burnt zone is because I was speaking to one of the rangers, and he said that this is the area that Scar was in, famous Scarface, the lion. And I thought, well, seeing as though there's absolutely nothing happening on the river, we might as well come and have a little scratch around here. But we don't seem to be winning this morning, which is a little bit sad, but I'm going to keep looking. So we haven't really seen too much. Heron, you're not going to catch anything for us, are you? That's okay. That's fine. Probably going to take you a bit of time. It hasn't even attempted to strike at all. Maybe it's not hungry. Maybe it's not hunting. Okay, what I'm going to do for you all... Oh, okay. I'm going to carry on trying to find Scarface and, well, the lioness that he's been mating with, and hopefully we'll be successful before the end of drive. But off we go to James with that crocodile that's lying and waiting for the impala.
Well, there he is. He seems to be coming out, but every time that he hears that he's going to be on television, he climbs back into the water. Does Crocky the croc. I think Crocky is trying to figure out how to be a leopard in this situation, trying to see how he could possibly sneak up on the impala on the landward side, and failing dismally. I suspect that this little dance has been going on for some time. Now the impala is going to have a drink as Crocky comes round to his side of the island. It must be very unpleasant for that impala right now, I must say. It must be awfully tempting to make a leap for it and just try and swim. But I'm not sure that that's going to be possible given the speed of a crocodile in the water. Crocky is now in front of the impala. Quite successfully snuck round there, I think. Unfortunately, so if Crocky stays underwater and the impala has a bit of a drink, well, then there could be trouble. Ooh! I don't know that we shouldn't move slightly forward, Craig. What do you think? Oh, let's wait. There's Crocky. Crocky, as typically gormless Crocky style, has stuck his head out of the water just as the impala looked like it was going to take the plunge. I do. Yeah, let's just go around the other side there. Maybe just keep the camera on the animals and I'll switch off quickly. Sorry, the bouncy picture, everybody. It's just in case we miss the action, as they say. You don't want to miss the action. Yes? Oh, my shadow. Yes, sorry, Craig. I'm sorry. Yes? Oh. Impala now looking at Crocky, Crocky looking at Impala, Crocky thinking, how can I leap out of the water? All right, Emma, let's try a little action broadcast. I can't guarantee you anything's going to happen, but let's see. Righty, everybody. Welcome to a special unscheduled broadcast from the western fringes of the Great Kruger National Park. We have a standoff here, an unusual standoff for this part of the world. We've got a crocodile and an impala. The impala is drying off on an island. It's swum across to that island. We don't know why. I'm going to guess most likely because wild dogs chased it there sometime before dawn broke this morning. Please do talk to us. You can ask us any questions you like about the standoff going on here. We're going to sit and see what plays out here for the next little while. See if the crocodile manages to grab the impala or whether the impala is going to escape. Now, it is unlikely that the impala will be able to outswim the crocodile, and it is unlikely that the crocodile would be able to grab the impala on land, which leaves an interesting kind of strategic move for both of them to make. If the crocodile were to come onto the land and chase the impala into the water, he would then be able to probably catch him before he got to the edge. If, however, the crocodile is going to persist in waiting in the water, he must hope for a memory failure in the impala or desperation from the impala, which may well happen. Eventually that impala is going to get desperate enough to leap into the water and make its way back towards the surface, at least towards the shore. Otherwise it's going to starve to death where it is. The eventuality of its starvation, I'm afraid, we're some days off, which is good for the impala. Now, I don't know about you, but I, in these situations, tend to root for the antelope, because I'm just not hugely enthusiastic about impala. Well, Johnry, yes, in theory, the crocodile would eat the impala stranded, but the impala on land, as long as it remains on land there, the croc won't catch it. Unless the crocodile manages to get some purchase on the ground, just below the shoreline, and can leap out of the water and grab it, then it's possible. But the impala is very carefully watching the crocodile, and a few steps like that immediately render it impossible for the crocodile to catch him. He must be right on the water's edge. There he's coming out. Look at that, Crocky the Croc's on his way out. I think that impala is also limping slightly. This is fascinating. Now the impala might make a run for it. Oh, it's going to be in trouble now. Oh, this is unbelievable stuff. Here comes a hippo in too. Go, impala. There's a hippo coming in. I can't believe what we're seeing here. This is what we'd normally see in East Africa. It's all over. Hippo leaping at the crocodile now. Everything's gone underwater. This is not what we see here at all. It's what we're used to seeing in the Masai Mara during the migration season. Right now, it's happening up in East Africa, not here in Southern Africa. It's precisely what we expected to happen if the impala took a leap. There, what's going on there? I think they've grabbed the crocodile. Hippopotamus going crazy there. I just saw some scales coming up. Let's watch carefully. I've got no idea where the crocodile is. I've got no idea where the impala is. Well, I know the impala's under the water and hopefully now in impala heaven. Let's just watch this very carefully here. Now, we do know that hippo do not like crocodiles. There are many, many records of hippo chasing crocodile off their prey and then sometimes killing that prey or almost rescuing it. Craig's got some bubbles. Craig's on camera. Yeah, I think you're right. That's where it is. I think that's where this is playing out, everybody. I think the hippo just got overexcited and possibly started having a go at each other. Phew! I've never seen that in this part of the world. Absolutely unbelievable. Poor little impala. Now, I don't believe that the crocodile did that on purpose. I don't believe the croc came onto the island to chase the impala out into the water. And I think that there was a combination of coincidence and intellectual failings there on the part of the animals here. I think that the crocodile thought, well, I wonder if I can't catch that impala on the island. The crocodiles are not known for their great brilliance. And then I think that the impala didn't realize how quickly the crocodile would get into the water. I knew where the crocodile was, thought maybe I can outswim it, and there was no ways that was ever going to happen. Those crocodiles are unbelievably fast in the water. The last time I saw that, everybody, was with the Thompson's gazelle in the Mara River, and the Thompson's gazelle stood no chance against a crocodile's speed. Absolutely amazing. Let's just see if we can't go around the corner and get another look. I don't think we're going to get another look. I feel a bit sad about that because I always rather root for the antelope there. Something rather malevolent about crocodiles. We'll just pop around onto the waterhole wall here. Well, at least this is the big question, isn't it? Was the hippopotamus trying to save the impala? Like I say, there are records of prey animals being saved by hippo. Sometimes then, though, the hippo will kill the prey animal. I've seen it happen with gazelles. I have seen footage of a hippopotamus actually lifting the head up of an injured gazelle and seemingly trying to help it to get away. But I don't know if there was actually the attempt to save it from the crocodiles. Certainly, you know, we've watched this 100 times in the Mara, where there are hippo observing the crossings from the water, and wildebeest and topi and Thompson's gazelles and zebra leap into the water, and the hippo just kind of watch. They don't make any huge attempt to do anything other than watch. Alrighty, I think the action's died down now, so we'll probably say goodbye to you, to those of you who've just joined us. It's really quite marvellous. We'll sit here for a little bit longer, and if you'd like to keep watching, well, just go to YouTube, type in SafariLive, and you can watch the rest of our safari, which has about 45 minutes left, I think, this morning. We are coming to you live from the Mara and here in the Sabi Sands of South Africa, so that's very exciting. We'll see you next time. Alrighty, what an amazing thing to have seen, everybody. I feel quite breathless by that. I feel almost like we shouldn't have seen it, though, because this is not where we see those sorts of things. There's the croc. Oh, hang on, we got them there, right in front of us, with the horns of the impala sticking out of the water. No, right here. And something else has just leapt into the water. Not sure what that was. Possibly a water monitor lizard. Shame. Now, one doesn't really know if the impala had been more patient, if it had waited on the island for longer, would the crocodile eventually have disappeared and gone looking for something else? The answer, I think, is no. A crocodile can go without food for a lot longer than a ruminating impala can. Now, of course, it must go through the tedious process of eating the impala, and as we've explained many times in the Mara, they cannot chew crocodile. They have grasping, killing jaws. They cannot chew, which means that in order to dismember the carcass, it must go through that sort of rolling process where it will grab a limb, roll around in the water, and eventually the limb will detach itself. Also, it may well find a log or something under the water to put the carcass underneath, and that carcass will then rot and make eating it much easier. Well, well, well. Not a thing to have seen here in southern Africa. I mean, I guess it must happen in the Okavango Delta fairly regularly. But here at Chitwa Waterhole, I imagine that is a fairly rare occurrence. Good. All right. Well, I think that's our action done from Chitwa Dam. I think we'll go somewhere else now and see what else we can find. Okay. As we move off, let's keep going. Just going to turn around at the top of the dam there and then come back the way. It's warming up quite nicely, which is always very pleasant. 1st of August. Alrighty, I think we're going to go back up to the Mara, to the Crossing Queen herself this year. The Crossing Queen does not have a crossing, however, at this stage.
Did they say live? Communication. Sorry everybody, I'm just standing up. I think Emma has said live. However, I'm on a handheld radio and the communication is not so great today. However, I'll just pretend like we are live. I haven't spoken for quite some time, so there's a lot that I need to get out. But here we have a nice herd of elephants. Isn't that just absolutely beautiful? And it's one of my utmost favorite things about the Mara is just the scenery. Wherever you go, it is stunning, and especially if you can have some elephants in frame. I mean, look at that. From the yellows to the different blues, from the escarpment, from the sky. It's pretty miserable, like I said earlier, quite a bit of cloud cover, but I think it will burn away eventually. You can see it's very grey out today. This would look very pretty in the morning golden light, and we're in the middle of nowhere currently, which is quite cool. There's not another vehicle in sight. It is beautiful. But, you know, all of you know how much I love elephants. However, the elephants of the Mara don't really pay too much attention to the cars. I know you've already had a very sweet sighting of a young elephant, maybe a similar age to this one, with James this morning, that paid him a bit of attention, and I am envious. Run away. It's going to play. It's very windy as well, as I'm sure you can hear. This is very precious. This is such a beautiful sighting. Go on, little elephants. And out here, the elephants spend most of their day in the open, grazing when they can. I mean, they will go down into the forest. I'm sure there's some elephants that prefer it in the forest where it's a little bit cooler. There's also lots of food around. There seems to be quite a bit of fruit dropping at the moment too. So I'm sure that's going to be a part of the elephant's diet. But this herd, of course, is going to be feeding on maybe some small shrubs, but predominantly grasses. And there's so many of them. It's a nice herd. Although, in terms of herd size in the Mara, this is a particularly small herd. Sometimes you can see like 40 or 50 elephants together, which is really quite nice. Now, before Steve's beautiful feathered friend flies away, let's go see what it is.
Well, here we go. Look at what we found, ladies and gentlemen. We found a beautiful woodpecker doing its thing. Strangely enough, it is on a dead leadwood, which I don't think there's too much to peck at on there. It's very hard wood. Maybe there's just very small little crevices. Hasn't done any pecking yet, more of a sort of a looking around. It seems to be a male. Golden-tailed woodpecker. And the red sort of stripe underneath the eye there. And the reddish head. Streaky chest. I'll play the call for you. You can listen. It's a very nice call. Golden-tailed woodpecker. Sounds like a golden chest being opened. You see he responded to that. Ooh, what is that? Who was that? He's thinking, what other golden-tailed woodpeckers around here? Beautiful bird. You see the... Oh, off he goes. Oh my word, it's on the floor. I've never seen a woodpecker on the floor apart from the ground woodpeckers. And a bennet sometimes, but I've never seen a golden-tailed woodpecker on the ground. That is ridiculous. Okay, well, I have seen woodpeckers on the ground before. I've never seen a golden-tailed or a bearded on the ground before. How awesome is that? Maybe he heard himself and is like, hang on, I'm going to jump around on the ground and have a little look-see. That's very strange. Rush, the biggest woodpecker in SA is the bearded. So I'm now double checking, and this is actually, looks like to be a Bennett's woodpecker, which you don't get very often here. It's a lot more spotted on the chest, you can see, rather than streaky. It's not streaky, and they are known to jump around on the ground. I've never seen a golden tail jumping around on the ground, and most likely busy looking for some termites and maybe even some ants that are around. So the bearded woodpecker is the biggest of the woodpeckers down here in southern Africa. Oh, there we go. The Bennets would make sense because food, mainly ants and termites, frequently feeds on the ground. So just because the behavior changed, it goes to show that I've never seen a golden tail doing this. So being a woodpecker still, it would be up in the tree, probably looking for termites or ants that are along the top of the tree, maybe living in colonies on the branch itself, because it wouldn't make sense for this woodpecker to have been pecking on that leadwood. It just would have been a really hard ask for it to do. Marvelous. So it goes to show how the behavior of the bird can help you to identify it. So indeed a Bennett's woodpecker, and that is my first for my Juma list. Very, very good. Thank you, Ferg, for that. Awesome stuff. Well, we're going to go up this way. We're going to head back towards where the bushwalk team is. We've been trying to give them a hand with the tracking of Hosanna, but how incredible was James's sighting. I jumped onto YouTube quickly to have a little look, and I saw a hippo smash an impala a few months ago. I think it was last year. I hadn't started working here yet. Wild dogs in the morning at a dam in the Timavati had chased an impala, and the impala said, okay, cool, I'm going to jump into the dam. And it was swimming just like that impala was swimming. I suppose that's how impala swim. And it swam straight through a pod of hippos to the other side, and the wild dogs came around, were waiting on that side, and then it turned around and swam back through the pod of hippos, and then the hippo turned around and did that, and the impala never came up again. But incredible to see, and James recorded it live. Incredible, incredible. I've never seen a crocodile smash an impala before, or any animal live. Well done, James. Okay, well, we're going to keep going up here and see if we can get back in touch with Bushwalk. And on that note, let's go back over to Tristan and see how they're doing.
Well, Steve, I'm pretty sure you'll be able to contact Herbie because he's disappeared a little bit further away from us as he waits for us to tell you about another crime scene today. So it seems like poor last night or yesterday must have been a tough day for many an animal, because as you can see here, a bird met a rather sticky end as well. Now, I don't think this was at the hands of our spotty cat leopard, but it's very difficult to say. There's no tracks that we can really see. Herbie and I guess that maybe Civet or Janet, one of the two of those, that ended this poor bird's life. And the reason we know that it's one of the ground-dwelling cats or predators is just because the feathers are all in one place. So you can see the feathers are in a tight grouping here. If it was a bird of prey, we would have seen obviously feathers spread a lot more as they fed off it from a tree area. Now we can actually identify this bird quite easily, because if we pick up one of the feathers, you'll see here that this feather has got a beautiful pattern on it. It's got this kind of rusty reddish color with these little black bars and a beautiful white stripe that comes up the middle of the feather. Now there's only really one bird that has that out here, so I'm going to just get my app out so I can show you what we're talking about, and you'll have a little look quickly. I did take it out just now, but there we go. So if you have a look on this and you have a look at this feather, you'll see that this is a crested francolin, and so the crested francolin has that white line that runs through the feather, the middle of the feather, and is quite prominent, and it's the only one that would really match this. So this was a poor crested francolin that was killed in this area, and probably, like I say, taken by a civet or a genet during the course of the night, fed upon and then moved. We initially came in this area because we heard the francolins going crazy, and we thought maybe that Hosanna had walked here, but it was more an indication probably that the francolins came across this and panicked and just flew out, and that's why they were alarm calling. In terms of Hosanna's tracks, we lost them in the block here. They were moving around, but they were very fresh, and we haven't had any further signs of alarm calls or anything like that. So I don't know if he maybe just did a loop back towards the drainage, but we'll just have to go and have a little look. I know Steve is going to come and try and give us a hand, so we're going to try and loop ourselves back in that direction and see if we can maybe find some more tracks again, and maybe they've crossed the road back into the drainage line. I think that's where he's going to head. He might head into this block and sleep here for the day, but we know that his general pattern is to go back towards the dam, and so I would imagine that's where he's probably going to head after his little walk in here. He might have just done that walk just to get away from us and then turn back into the block again, back into the drainage line. But it's a beautiful, beautiful winter's morning. It's not too hot, it's not too cold, it's perfect. Ah, Maggie. So, yes, Maggie, someone in a wheelchair can still do a safari. I have had a few guests, actually, that have been in wheelchairs in my time. It's obviously a little bit more difficult, so something like a bushwalk is not possible, obviously, but in vehicles, most definitely. So what they normally would do is they'll just park the vehicle there, and then they'll give you a hand. The ranger and the trackers normally give you a hand to get into the car, and once you're in the vehicle, you don't really have to worry too much at all. You'll certainly be able to go on a safari. So yes, somebody in a wheelchair can do safari. It is very, very possible. Some lodges, unfortunately, are probably not very wheelchair friendly, but others most definitely are. There's a lot of lodges that make sure there's no steps, that everything is on slopes, and that there's wheelchairs can get to any sort of part of the lodge. So you do get it, and you most definitely can go on safari even in a wheelchair. It's nice that that can be the case. You know, it's obviously a difficult situation for people to be in, then, you know, if they can't move, but it's nice that the lodges have taken that into account, and many of the lodges in the Sabi Sands are wheelchair friendly. Good, we're going to move on. We're going to head back towards the drainage and the dam. While we do that, let's send you back up to the Mara.
Welcome back. It is still bitterly chilly out here in the Masai Mara. VM and I just stopped for a tea break, so we're nice and cozy now. We've left the cheetahs sleeping, and we're going to now continue our mission, Jumbo Jumbo, for the Sausage Tree Pride. Now, this is this area they've disappeared into, and as I said, it's about 25,000 acres of long grass as well. Oh, hello, Koki Franklins. Oh, goodbye, Koki Franklins. The wind today is causing havoc with lots of things. It's making quite a lot of the animals very nervous, as it's good for the predators to be able to sneak up on creatures while the wind is howling as it is today. Normally by this time in the morning in the Mara, we're feeling quite warm, starting to take a few layers off, not thinking about drinking hot drinks. I just wanted to check these Murrum pits. Sometimes the lions come here for a drink. Alas, not. So I think we're going to head back towards Kampiamungu, which is an area just down the campsite where the mobile tour operators set up shop when they're here. Oh, I heard I had a question from Romit, but unfortunately only half the question came through. So can we have it again, please? Now, come on, I'm feeling lucky with the sausages this morning. Now, and actually it's an excellent question from Romit about cheetah populations in general. Now, all wild cheetah populations in Africa, apart from one, are actually declining due to various different reasons, from loss of habitat due to human encroachment, due to large hyena or lion populations. They have an incredibly low success rate in raising cubs. Over 80% of cheetah cubs that are born will die before they reach a year old. The only population of cheetah in Africa, wild population of cheetah in Africa, what's Vim? Oh, there's a car behind us, we're causing traffic jams. So the only wild population of cheetah in Africa at the moment that is increasing, Jumbo Jumbo, is South Africa. And that is a lot to do with the work of the EWT, the Endangered Wildlife Trust, and the reintroduction programs that they have of putting cheetah into reserves where cheetah have been extinct for a couple of hundred years. And the largest meta population of cheetah in terms of the greatest genetic diversity and most likely to be able to successfully breed, etc., all that, is actually the Greater Kruger National Park. So Djuma is part of that area, and that is the largest meta population. So most genetic diversity and strongest genetic viability lies within South Africa and Southern Africa at the moment. But everywhere else, cheetah have been on decline. Now, a lot of this is due to outside factors, but also more than likely, if we had to be brutally honest about the beautiful cheetah cat, and they are one of my favorite cats, is they are another sort of failed arm of the evolutionary tree. So there's been many different animals that have gone extinct naturally over the last couple of million years, and cheetah look to be one of those that is likely to eventually go extinct all by its own due to lack of genetic viability amongst the whole population. Now, for example, it would be very difficult to take a skin graft from a lion in the Masai Mara and pop it on a lion from Botswana or a lion from South Africa, because even though they are the same species, there is enough genetic viability through the whole population that skin graft wouldn't take. However, you can take a skin graft from a cheetah in Iran, which is the only population of cheetah that are living naturally outside of Africa, and place it on a cheetah from South Africa, from Kenya, and vice versa, and that skin graft would take that there's so little genetic variation in the cheetah population. So it is a little bit sad, but of course we're doing all we can, and lots of people are working very hard to ensure the cheetahs will survive as long as possible. But I think if you have to look at it from the grand scheme of things, cheetah are more than likely going to go extinct in the next 20,000 years or so. Oh, this wind. The problem with looking for lions in this wind as well is they curl up into these little balls, as VM calls it, they nest in this grass. And unless you're right next to them or they pop their heads up, they can be very difficult to find. Now, let's go across to someone who is searching for what, I'm not sure, but I'm sure he's going to be very loud about it. It's James Henry.
I'm not going to be loud about it at all. I'm just going to whisper. My nickname is not the big loud sound. We are on our way up towards Hosanna's little haunt. Not the one at Chitwa Dam, this one now, of course, up at our main dam. And while he has eluded the bushwalk team today, he may well just pitch up there at the end of the drive, which would be very nice, I think. It's been quite exciting, really, today. We've got our timing exactly correct there at the waterhole. We were very lucky. It's not something you see every day here in the Sabi Sand, East Africa style river crossings. I can imagine Leo Smith's face when he heard what was going on there. He must have been utterly astounded. He'd have enjoyed that very much, I'm sure. Alrighty, the wind is starting to blow, interestingly, from the northwest. And these winds started coming in from the northwest probably about, I'm going to say, a week ago. And it's just a slight turn of the seasons. I can remember them doing this just before spring. The last time I was here for spring, which of course was not last year, it was 2 years ago. And it's just an indication, of course, that the weather is slowly changing. Now, while August is definitely still considered winter in this part of the world, it can get very hot here in the Lowveld in August. And in fact, we have the switch from winter to summer because we don't really have a spring and we don't really have an autumn. It will happen sometime this month, and it often happens over the course of sort of 2 or 3 days, where you wake up one day, it's suddenly not cold anymore, you don't need that extra blanket, and it's blazing by noon. And that will probably happen somewhere halfway through this month, I imagine. We all have the odd... Oh, there's a beautiful little Melba finch / green-winged pytilia there. Oh, there. It's right there. Craigus, can you see it there? In the middle of this green bush. There. And gone. Well, I got a wonderful sighting there while you were all getting seasick as I pointed Craig hither and yon. Sorry about that. That was the green-winged pytilia. I believe it's windy in the Mara today as well. It's windy in the Mara every day. Katrina, yes, I suppose the morning show will be 3 hours again. I suspect that will happen after the TV shows are finished. We're still doing our drone testing in the morning. It's really too dark for us to be broadcasting from 5:30 in the morning because there's really not much to see, and we are doing quite a lot of testing at the moment. So yes, they will go back up to 3 hours eventually, probably in about 4 weeks' time, maybe before. They're definitely, it's not going to take longer than 4 weeks before they are up to 3 hours again, but I would ask you to be patient for that time. It's just while the TV shows are on. It's quite likely that they will be 3 hours again before the end of 4 weeks, but it might be until then. Now we need to look out for some spots. While we do that, let us go across to Tristain, who has been on the trail of Hosanna all day.
We have indeed, and we've just picked up more tracks. He's still heading northwards, so he's in the block, kind of going north. When we were down in the drainage line with the dwarf mongoose, we had impalas alarm calling down there, and they sounded... It was difficult to kind of work out exactly where they were, but it sounded like somewhere around Gallagher Pan area. But now that we've come this way, I actually spotted the impalas not too far from us. They're a little bit north around Mvubu Road, and I think they might have just seen him at some point during the morning, and that's why they were shouting. It's unfortunately probably a little far for us to have pinpointed exactly. There's some francolins that are also making some noise. I wonder if Hassan is not on his way back towards the dam. Could very well be. He's gotten into this drainage line and is now heading back to the dam itself. Difficult to say. I mean, we'd obviously have to follow the tracks a little bit more, but we're running out of time, I'm afraid. So we are not going to be able to probably follow them all the way through, but it's a good starting point. We know exactly where the last track was. I think he's going to get into this drainage line and maybe appear back around the dam at some point during the course of this afternoon. It would be nice if he does. It would be nice to have him back at the dam camp because it allows for, well, everyone to watch him all the time, which is always very, very pleasant. But I don't see any tracks coming out on this road, so I think he's still north of us. I mean, the track was on the northern side of where we were, so I'm pretty sure that's where he is. We'll just take a little wander down here through these guarri thickets, because sometimes he likes to lie in here if he has come back towards the dam. I don't see any sign of him, though, or any sign of any birds alarm calling or anything like that. It's always important when you walk through these sections is just to kind of pay attention to underneath the bushes. It's now that time of the day where the sun's gotten up, it's starting to heat up a little bit, starting to get much warmer, and so cats will often try and get in under these guarri thickets. So anywhere where there's these kind of green sections, they'll try and get in underneath, and we know that Hosanna has spent a few days under some of these guarri bushes, so it's important just to check underneath those sections when you're walking along and making sure that you just aware that they might be lurking somewhere in this vicinity. But unfortunately, it's that time of the day. Like I say, we've run out of time a little bit to track him, but it is that time of the day where we're going to be heading back to camp in order to, well, probably feed ourselves. Hey, David. Yes, we're going to try and feed ourselves and trying to see if we can get some breakfast. I suppose some of us have earned it more than others. I don't know. I don't think we've done very much today, David, so we shouldn't eat too much. But anyway, it's been an absolutely beautiful morning. That sunrise was absolutely spectacular. Very interesting to see all the different things that have been killed during the course of the night. That was wonderful, and sounds like the Mara has been absolutely fantastic, and it's so good to have them back. So nice to see Taylor and Brent as well that side, and Naratoy and the cub too, because the last time I saw them was many months ago, so I'm glad that she's back